evening. Welcome to another edition. Hope everyone's okay. Tonight we are discussing on how to safeguard autistics during crisis. Now, I know my wife Kerry is supposed to be joining us, but she's obviously dealing with youngers. Sara Bradford's supposed to be joining. I ain't got a clue where she is, but how is everyone? Everyone all right?
Doing awesome.
Good. Oh, good. Yes.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of pain in my mouth, but I'll be okay. I'll be all right. Yeah. Joys of having something removed, but it's okay.
There's Sara. She's coming.
Sara's here.
Hey, sorry about that.
What time do you call this?
This was fun.
Are you okay, though?
Yeah. Am I okay? Or is somebody else okay?
I'm asking you.
I'm fantastic.
That's
Yes, I just had to button down all of the things that have to happen before we come in here, No opening the door. Don't let any cats out. Don't. All that will happen, I'm sure.
Well, have you noticed that with kids and all that, you ask them to do something or don't do something, but they totally do opposite.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So we may see a kid. We may see a cat. We'll never know. So, yeah, it's so nice to see everybody. Nick, I don't know if I've ever met you before. So nice to meet you.
Yes,
Richard
likewise.
and Ashley, love you both. So good to see you.
Awesome. So, hang on a minute. Oh, I thought Kerry was in the green room then. But, yeah, please do subscribe, everybody. Please do share this. And please put comments or any questions that you've got in it. So, let's kickstart. Sara, for everybody that doesn't know who you are, give a brief introduction.
Oh, hello. I am number one, mom and a wife, which are my favorite jobs to do. Number two, I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm also a children's book author, a podcaster, and an advocate, an event host. Yeah, I am a Jane of all things. That's what I'd like to say. We won't go back into my past and tell you all the other careers I've done. No, right now, I'm here as an advocate, and I have an all autistic family, so lots of experience to draw from. I've had over 300 interviews on my podcast with autistic individuals, so lots of experience to draw from. So yeah, excited to bring that all to the forefront today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, when it is the title Safeguarding Autistics During Crisis, first thing that comes into mind is trauma and anxiety. So, and this is for everybody as well. What mindset do you think that individual has? Or what mindset do the parents have when they're dealing with that? I don't want to say troubled individual, but that struggling individual. What kind of mindset do they have?
Well, for me, I kind of think my son and my daughter are both autistic, high functioning autism, which is kind of amazing. But I think it's kind of like being on a huge acid trip, having so much stuff going on at one time that it's hard for them to kind of focus on one thing because there's so much going on at one time. That's the way I look at it. I think it's kind of like it's just so much being thrown at a person at one time that even the minor things in life seem really major to them because they have so much stimuli.
Yeah.
I couldn't add my perspective. I work in a school with a mainstream school, but they do have a fair number of children on the autistic spectrum, and a lot of them have sort of one-to-one support, and they're quite diverse in the level of needs they have. But I think relating to sort of trauma or perceived trauma, they're definitely there's a struggle to express it, manage it emotionally, process it emotionally and then express it. So if one child at one end of the spectrum, that means he often will go over the top almost in his reaction to something which he perceives as traumatic. But then another spectrum, there's a child who his father's dying, which is obviously very traumatic. He's only 7, the boy. He won't tell anyone, he won't talk about it. So we're aware of it, but we have to sort of understand that any behavior that comes up is probably going to be, and your behavior is probably going to be coming out of his processing that. So for so I think it's definitely, with autistic children, it's a very wide spectrum, but I think sort of processing emotionally any sort of trauma, and then communicating, to other people how, what's on their mind is a big challenge. And I think whether it's, from my perspective, teachers who support them or parents who support them, I think it's trying to work out. Obviously, it's trying to understand what is on those child's minds, because it's sometimes quite hard to know, because with some autistic children, obviously that part of the challenge is they can't express or communicate very easily how they're feeling, what emotions they're going through. And obviously it's hard to in some ways it's hard to support autistic children if you're not really clear how they're feeling, what emotions are going through, what's in their mind. So that's definitely something I see at school.
Actually, I know that obviously you're home educating your little kids, which can be a handful. Obviously you've got autistic kids as well. How do we communicate with them when they're attacking us verbally, being toxic towards us?
None of my kids are autistic.
Okay, then.
None of them are, but as a previous foster parent who had high functioning Asperger's children come in and out of our home, a lot of times they came to our house as like a respite because their parents needed a break, and also because they were struggling at home. So we've had Asperger's children in and out of our home a few different times. But it's even when that situation happens, helping them to regulate. And that's not always an easy thing, but when they're removed from the situation that they're having the struggle in, they sometimes become different children. So sometimes it's one of those things where you have to remove them from the situation to help them calm down. Otherwise, that overstimulation, like Richard was talking about, it keeps sending them into a spiral effect. So that's one thing that we've noticed. And I mean, that goes even for kids that don't have autism. Like, they just need to be removed from the situation and put in a different environment for their mood to just kind of settle down and flip, if you will, because they're just overstimulated in the current situation that they're in. So
and this is the situation me and Kerry are in present, is because our eldest, yes, he's just done his exams. We won't know how he's done until August. But when he's at home, he overstimulates big time because he's fixated on spending hours and hours and hours on his laptop playing games, watching videos, whatever. And then when we ask him to come away from it, like to have his tea, to go for a shower, whatever, even just have a drink, all hell breaks. All hell breaks. So what do we do?
I think that you need to, as parents, first of all, have two mindsets available. Curiosity, because you want to be curious about the communication that they're trying to relay in their behavior. If we look at behavior, It's almost all certainly a type of form of communication that someone can't relay through words or things, and so they act out on those, impulses instead. But I also think that it's important to remember that each individual, autistic or not, is human, and there is a need for human autonomy. And when that autonomy is challenged by a demand, by pressure being put on them, it is easier to go into fight or flight and either shut down or fight back. And when you can kind of learn to use language that encourages their autonomy in making those decisions on their own, possibly having the eldest child create their own system on their laptop that sets timers for them. This time is a great time for you to step away from the computer now. Now the computer is giving them the demand and not you. That sets them up for being able to feel like they're in control of this choice now, not you putting the control on them and them being out of control completely. So I think that it's really tricky, and I think it's a skill that's practiced, definitely. And regulation, like you said, Ashley, it's so important to help either remove or teach co-regulation in those moments, whether you're taking a step back and like breathing in and out really slowly to show them what that looks like visually, maybe stating, I'm taking deep breaths to calm myself down right now because I'm feeling like I'm getting frustrated. Are you feeling that way? Why don't we take deep breaths together? And of course, the level of communication and understanding matters there. So
Absolutely. Yeah, because what we've done currently is obviously he's learning Japanese for some reason at 13 years old. I don't know why. Don't ask me that.
DJ loves Japanese.
No,
If he needs someone to talk to.
I don't know. But then he's doing 6 hours of school, which we've reduced him to 3 days a week in school rather than the 5 because we don't believe he can handle the 5. And then he's doing educational stuff when he gets home. So it's that overstimulation. And we're trying to help him, trying to encourage him just to reduce it a little bit and have a bit of fun. But no. No. But I know Kerry's on the way anyway. So
but I think, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and, if I want her to take a shower, I'll say, listen, you want to take a shower at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock? You're going to take a shower either way, but I'm giving you the choice. So I put the power in your court. Mm-hmm. And I think, like she was saying, if you give the child a little bit of responsibility of being in charge of their own, okay, well, I'll take a shower after dinner. Okay, that's cool. I'm cool with that. Instead of just trying to always putting the hammer down and not giving them any choices, I think giving choices would help a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
And I bet you do that, Ashley, with your littles too. It kind of, do you want the blue chair or the red chair? Don't choose a chair, just choose a color of chair you want to sit in. That's what we did with our toddlers.
Yeah, it's usually plates. Like, do you want the purple plate or the blue plate? Like, which plate do you want? Because, I mean, there's times that they, have a meltdown. I didn't want that color. Oh, my God. All plates are the same. Like, pick one.
I was just about to say, Ashley, is it you put that on the kids or your husband? I don't know.
No, because I'm the one that usually serves up dinner. So I make sure he gets his plate first, and then the kids I dish up and they're all the same. Or it's, do you want potatoes or do you want just meat? Do you want sauce with your spaghetti or no sauce? Like, it's all of those things. Like, and you learn your children of, okay, nope, this one doesn't like sauce. This one just wants meat and noodles. This one, this one wants buttered noodles. Like, you just figure out what their typically nuances or whatever their patterns are.
It's interesting in what I've in the school I'm at. We often get one autistic child, and I guess they're quite in some way so egocentric in that everything is so often he'll want to do something and he wants to do that in his mind. That's what he should be able to do. So in a classroom, he wants to stand at the front of a class, and he can't, but obviously that's distracting for the teacher. So what we'll do is take him to the willow room, separate room, ask him to go there, where then we can say, look, you can do anything you like in the willow room for half an hour. So you've got a choice. You can do drawing or Lego, but then half an hour we'll go back to class. But in class, we'll have to sit down. So it's trying to sort of give him some framework, some sort of understanding. There are rules, but you have also, like I think, like you said, Sarah, giving them the choice. So if you go for willow room, you can do anything you like. But if you want to go back to class, then you'll have to sit down. So why don't we, do whatever you like for half an hour, then go back in class and sit down. So it's trying to sort of give them the idea that they are in control, because they're in control of choosing what they do in a willow room. But there are some rules if they go back to classroom. That makes sense. Okay. So it's it's trying to get a balance between them. I think they have understanding. It's like Adam. There's understanding in the family setting or school setting. There are some rules. They have to encourage them to try.
You have to, Nick. You had to mention the school setting with me, didn't you?
But at the same time, getting them, getting to understand rules is a hard thing. So it's a balance of, trying to understand there are rules that some rules they have to follow, but at the same time, how can we get them to do what they would enjoy and flourish at? And it's that balance. So the way we do is take a setting where they can then do that.
Okay, let's jump to relationships when it comes to dealing with a child in crisis, because I know we can all be manipulators in our lives. I know that, but autistics do it clever, don't they? They know how to try and get their own way over anyone else. But what are they like when they try and come in between parents? Because I know I don't know the statistics from top of my head, but when a child has got autism, the parents do tend to go separate ways when things get hard, don't they?
I think that has to be so individual, because my husband and I, we are team Bradford. We are never on, like, yes, we're different people, but we talk about things, and we, especially when it comes to our kids, there's very few conversations that we're not on the same page with. So maybe that's important that you seek that out in the partner that you're with, that you guys can talk about troubled times, especially with teens, and teenage isms can be just the hardest time of life.
Yeah.
But I think that, and maybe it's very individual, I think, to every family. I do have a stepdaughter that is 25 and already moved out, but I did raise her from 5 to 15 or so, but she was a parent shopper. So exactly what you're saying. She was a parent shopper. She liked to go behind everybody's back and ask several, us or her mom or us on separate occasions, my husband or I. And so I completely get that. There are kids that do that for sure. And I think with that, you have to really just stay in communication with your partner or with your co-parenting partner that you're having to, because believe me, we did not have a great relationship with his ex-wife, but when it came down to, hey, let's match up some notes that we're, this kid is trying to get us to do, then we would have to be on the same page, because we all had the same outcome, that we wanted the best for her. Even though, like you said, she would try to go about getting her way regardless. And my own biological children don't do that. So maybe that was something genetically from her own side, of her mom's side or something. I don't know.
Triangulation.
Yes.
That's what that is. Triangulation. And our kids will do that. And if my husband and I, if it comes down to they ask dad gives them one answer, and then they come to me, like
Yeah.
Sarah, then they come to me and they ask me, and I give them a different answer, not knowing that they went to him already. And then they go do the activity, and then my husband's like, well, I just told you no. And I was like, oh, did daddy? Because you didn't tell me that. So now, because you did that, now you lose the privilege. So there ends up being a consequence when they do that. Otherwise, if we're standing in front of each other and they ask me a question that they already know the answer to, it's we're not playing that game. You're not going to turn around and ask me after dad just gave you the answer. Yeah. So kids are great manipulators.
They are, aren't they? They are. They are.
I guess I also risk creating a sort of the good cop and a bad cop. The husband's a bad cop because he says no, but mummy will be the good cop. It's because she'll say yes. And that's like you said, they'll play off and know who possibly will say yes and will say no. And that's a challenge of the best thing we should try and do is consistency in agreement of the response we give and the way we approach things as parents or teachers, teaching parents. Consistency. And that sort of situation, like you said, Ashley, that challenges the consistency because obviously straight away, but it's going to be different responses.
Yeah.
Well, then you also have the children that'll say, "Well, I'm autistic. This is why I do what I do." And for me, I say, "Yeah, so is Bezos, so is Zuckerberg, so is Elon. What's your excuse?" And then I just move on because I don't let them use it as an excuse. I let it use it.
They can't use it in their lives.
I let them use it as a superpower. I don't let them use it as an excuse.
Well, this is what we do because, for example, when our eldest is in crisis, he gets violent. It's common, but when he's throwing stuff at us or he's hitting us, we almost have actually done it, and we have actually almost rang the police because of his age. Because thing is, the people can't keep using autism or any disability as an excuse to get through life. Because fair enough, if they're arrested, they will take it easy on them. They will, but they need to see reality as well. They do. So it's how do we encourage that, like push that onto them and get them to realize that without them being traumatized and escalating the situation, if that makes sense.
Maybe social stories, talk about it. I would say lots of beforehand conversations to go over possible situations that could happen. We do that with our daughter. My son's 15, but he's semi-verbal, but he's not cognizant enough to have a conversation that he would remember if a situation were to happen. That's something I would have to address with him in the moment. So it's really tricky because, like you said, Ashley, you really have to know your kid. You have to know their nuances. You have to know their
nice cat.
My son has a total meltdown if his water spills, like the slightest thing. But huge thing could happen. Like we had a huge earthquake maybe 5 years ago, and we were hiding under our kitchen table and he was running around the house. Like he has no idea that there's something dangerous happening, that he's putting himself in danger. And there's not at this point in his life a way for him to understand that other than just keep maybe having conversations or like I said, social stories, anything about those situations, and then how to manage the outcome of that.
Yeah. What's school life like, Nick, when it comes to crisis? Have you ever dealt with a child in crisis?
So we use social stories a lot to children. So with the age group I work with, sort of six, seven, eight, so quite young, mostly. We used also social stories, so very simplistic stories, a lot of pictures, but yeah, simply telling the story. So, often about something's going to happen, so we're trying to prevent them getting frustrated and stressed and overreacting, getting angry about something, but what happens if there's a change of teacher or change or something. We use a social story to try and manage that. Yeah, there's a lot of the time there can be what we would think is overreactions, but which can lead to quite sometimes challenging behavior, difficult behavior, almost you could say violent, at times, but I think it's a lot of it is it's trying to show the consequences, but through social stories. So if this happens, do we get angry? If we do, what would happen? Well, if you got angry, you might hurt your friends. So trying to do, there's consequences of you being angry at school. You might hurt your friends, but this is a better thing to do. So it's trying to show consequences of actions through very simplified social stories, so everything's related to in a language and a story setting they can understand. But yeah, it's challenging because obviously you want your almost default setting is when there's difficult behavior is to respond to it from your own standpoint, and say that's not acceptable. That's that you can't do that. But obviously that's just over their head. That sort of approach. So it's challenging. But yeah, social stories, trying to build those into everything. Something we do.
Yeah. Do you use social stories, Ashley?
I've never even heard of that, to be honest with you.
Okay. Does
are
someone explain social stories?
Absolutely. I would love to. No, as soon as I found out about social stories, whoa, they were life-changing. So it's basically when you take a situation, let's just say drinking through a straw. You make a little story up about how we get a cup of water. We're going to put the straw into the water. We're going to put our lips around the straw, and then we're going to make a sucking, and then you try. I guess that's a bad story to tell. Example, but the basics of it is that you walk through each step, and it's sometimes you can do it with like 3D, like a cartoon character, if that's something that they relate to, or just if they're good readers and they like to just read, then just telling them the steps. When we go over to grandma's house, we're going to get out of the car. We're going to walk to the front door. When we open the front door, we're going to go back into your special room. You can turn your TV on, and then you can play the game. But when I come to pick you up, that's when it's time to turn the TV off, and we're going to pack your bag, and we're going to get back in the car to go back home. So it's like literally just a step-by-step story that is so helpful for autistic children and probably adults in lots of settings, because I think you could do it for every situation, like probably dating thing, bathroom things, anything. So I think that it has just great possibilities.
Yeah.
Good explanation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Richard?
Well, the stories that I tell my kids probably won't be able to come on here. That's a whole different show. But yeah, I think it's when you break it down Barney style, what things are going to be like, it's a lot easier because then they know what to expect instead of just saying, okay, we're going to grandma's house and then that's it. But if you kind of break it down Barney style a little bit, then they know what to expect and they don't have a heart attack when they get there. They know exactly what's going to happen from step by step to step.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're powerful tools.
Yeah, it has to be visual though, doesn't it?
I mean, I guess it could be auditory for someone maybe with vision impairment and that had autism or something. So I guess you could try to visually, kind of like an AI description, if you will. That there's a cat sitting in a window that has a kind type of thing. So I think that you could really make it accessible for anyone. I'm all about accessibility.
Absolutely, yeah. So different events, like for example, if it's like a nerd show, maybe, or Christmas period, that's when they get overstimulated the most. Well, especially our kids do anyway, because they're processing all these different things all at once. How do you control it from your experience?
Well, I mean, I could throw in. I think it's trying to. There's always trigger points, that set people off, and I think for Christmas there's probably lots of. It's quite an overwhelming time. There's a lot of stimulus. A lot of people, often a lot of noise, a lot of excitement, of emotion, and but it's trying to understand anything like these situations you talk about. It's about understand what the trigger points, what particular thing happening is most likely to be a point we need to manage. Try and plan for happens. So is it the present opening? Is it when everyone comes over on Christmas Day and it's amount of people? Is it I think it's trying to recognize these things. What are the trigger points and how can we prepare before it gets to it, because it's kind of too late for it. when
Because what we was thinking, because I was making a plan of us 5 going on holiday, like around the Christmas period. And then we was told, well, what about presents and all that? I'm like, well, they can do it when they get back. I don't think they'll be ready for that. I really don't, because obviously between Christmas Day and our eldest birthday, it's 10 days. So if he waits until we get back to open the Christmas presents, that isn't going to give him enough time to de-stress from Christmas to get ready for his birthday. So that could be a trigger point for him.
Well, I think the biggest thing would be taking them off of their routine. Like, I know my son is so high on his routine that even if something small happens that kind of puts a cog in the wheel, it kind of sends him off because he's so used to doing something one way. So now all of a sudden, if instead of having Christmas on Christmas Day, you're talking about having Christmas the next day, that'll totally throw him off because you're out of routine. And I think that's when the kids strive, even adults. That's when we strive the most, is when we stay on routine.
Great.
And that's a really great point, Richard. And we, after kind of coming up to that, problem a few times, realized we need to have something in place like our kid also loves to be on his computer constantly. So we taught him, hey, just like a computer has a backup file and a backup drive, we're going to have backup plans. If something changes automatically, we're switching to the backup plan. It's a backup file time. And we talk to him in computer language because that's what he is into and that's what he appreciates. And he is able to understand what that means based on those computer terms in his own manner. And so I think that's really helpful. But I kind of funny when you said that, Adam, because it wasn't until I'm an only child and my parents weren't close to family. So we never had big family parties. My husband has 7 siblings and I was like, yes, family parties. I can't wait. Guess who's autistic and does not like to go to family parties? My husband. So it was through him, though, that I was able to understand that process, because when we took our son and before he was diagnosed, and everyone would be like, why is he running over there? Why is this? Why is that? And it really wasn't until My husband kind of said, well, I hate these parties. I don't want to do this. I don't want to, the noise and the smell and the sounds of people eating and all of these things that I would never have recognized put him over the edge and send him into, he would actually be so worked up before we would go to things. I wouldn't even want to go to things because he would be so miserable ahead of time. And so I really recognized that this wasn't for us. This family party thing, it is not for us. I'm sorry. If you guys want to come over individually, that's fine. But we're not going to be attending. Were they upset with us? Totally. Some family stopped talking to us. That's on them, right? Like, we're offering the best thing for our family. And if they can't respect that as family members, then that's their own journey to take. So, yeah.
Yeah. See, with us, obviously, we've just got our families back in our lives after a massive falling out in the past couple of years. But we're planning on moving basically out the country. And so what strategy can we do? Because it's not like anyone is trying to stop us leaving. They're not, which I think is brilliant. But that gut feeling's telling me different. But what conversation can we have with the kids, or even an autistic, about the possibility of moving and it becoming a reality? Because I'm like building them up to it.
I would say those social stories could help.
I would say just make sure you have as much information as you can ahead of time, so you know what you're looking at, instead of just getting there and saying, oh shit. Because if you don't know what's coming, there's no way you're going to be able to break it down to them. So you got to make sure that you yourself have as much information as possible in order to break it down to them now to the time of the move.
And maybe like show maps and things like that. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think from my experience, there potentially will be a lot of questions. So have lots of answers, because if they say, well, where are we going to? Will we have a house or a flat with a big house with a garden? I don't know. What would the school be like? How long will it take to get there? They may have lots and lots of questions. Be ready. To try and be prepared. To have answers to the questions. Because I guess maybe if they ask lots of questions, then they may get anxiety. I think often there can be anxiety if they've got questions in their mind and they ask questions, there's no answer, then they can overthink. So if you've got loads of answers, you can reassure them. You can say, okay, well, we're going to have a house, a small house. Yes, you'll go to school. Yes, it's only 3 hours. Maybe you can come back. I don't know, but having answers can be reassuring. So I'd definitely say, do your research and be ready for questions.
Or I get them to do the research. I do.
Get them to do it. Yeah, I mean, depending on their age. If they're teenagers, maybe you can get them involved. Get them excited. If they like computers, then maybe that could be
because they ask like which area, and I'm like, well, there's no specific area present because there isn't. But look at all areas of it anyway, and pick something that you like, and see if that thing is there. What you can do. So that's what they do.
That is an ideal thing. If you're going to get them involved, get them engaged, the more likely engaged and involved. And if they feel they're part of the decision making, and it's exciting because they're part of making a decision. So if they if you say, well, why don't you ever look? Why don't you see what's going on there? Why don't you ever look at the area? Then they're less likely to build up in their mind and into something that's anxious because they're getting involved in it. I would say that's definitely a great idea.
Like my son, I know that if we were ever going to move somewhere, because he's such an animal lover and he's a marine biologist, I'd want to make sure, okay, well, there's an aquarium right by here. There's things that you like to do. There's the ocean. These are things that you're into. So you're going to get excited for the move because you're going to be 5 miles from an aquarium. You know what I mean? So I get them emotionally involved in the move to have them something to look forward to.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great one. I think that's a good point, that tying something that they're passionate about, excited about. So, Richard, if your children are excited about aquariums, can you find that there's an aquarium where you're going? So if there's something, Adam, that you can find that they're excited about, link that to your plans.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's same with the I want to bring that up about the stress, and I think this is up your street, Sarah, as well. The stress coming from the parents, and when they have to fight to get that child's EHC plan or the diagnosis, that can cause a bit of trauma towards that child as well, can't it? When they're seeing the parents or carers stressing about this and fighting.
Yeah, I think that it really, again, comes down to how you act, like, individually. I'm a really big proponent of not kind of bringing your children into those environments. So, not that I don't want them to be a part of the information. And the same time, if you are, because I have had to fight school districts for both of my children. Now, my son couldn't have understood what was happening, but my daughter could. And when we sat in a room with her and other teachers, and the other teachers had the audacity to say things that were degrading to her, I would just then say, well, now you're the adult. We're not going to psychologically warfare children when we're the ones teaching them. So hopefully we can check our own mindsets in this meeting. Yes. Because the children are the ones that they're advocating for, and they wouldn't be part of the school system if they didn't have some sort of care for children. So maybe they need to take a look at that and reassess if that's really a good thing for them to be in, if they're fighting against the child's best interest, kind of a thing. So yeah, I don't. That can be really, really frustrating. I think that it's for us telling our daughter, we're on your side. We have your back. We're your ride or dies. Obviously there's boundaries. If there's illegal things happen or breaking rules, consequences, that's something I cannot ever save you from. But if there's an adult that's mistreating you or another kid, yes, I'm going to have your back, and I'm going to help you to learn how to communicate and conflict resolve with that person. So I think that really having open communication with the teacher, with the or with the special educator, if there is one, with the principal, if there is one, any sort of all of that is so important, because I think that power struggles can happen in those types of situations. I personally go in hey, I'm so glad you guys are on our team. We're going to have a great time putting this plan together. Anna's such a cool, brilliant kid. Help me make the best situation for her. And I kind of go in like I'm the sports coach, and let's do this together and hype them all up, bring them donuts, smooch them a little and get them on your side. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think. I think that that's the best thing you can do. Manipulate from an adult standpoint, Adam.
Yeah, because that's what we do. Because I had to do it today, where every Friday I get an email from the school, from their form tutors, with a weekly report, and I think it's absolutely fantastic that we do that. But I've requested it many times to make it a detailed report about what they've learned and how they behaved, stuff like that. But I brought up our eldest. Then on a new tab, I brought up our daughters. And our daughters is full of details, what she's been learning, how she's behaved, and all that. But our son's is just how he's behaved. Nothing about what he's learned or anything like that. So I'm like stressing to the head teacher, because that's our email. We need to know what he's learning so then we can support this at home. Completely ignorant.
So why is that, Adam? Why? I mean, what's the reason that there's nothing like learning for your son, but there is for your
I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine.
Since you're odd that there's nothing in both areas, both children.
Your guess is as good as mine, Nick.
Yeah, I should definitely chase that.
But something I think we also got to realize that, our children might be in school 8 hours a day. That means they're home 16 hours a day. Yeah. That means we should be putting in double the work that the teachers are putting in at school, because it all starts from home. It all starts from parenting, and like young lady was just saying, we're teammates with the school system. We're not adversaries. We're all trying to get whatever's best for the child, but we got to make sure that we're doing our part at home, because we're with them double the time that they are in school. So I think we have to take some personal responsibility also.
Yeah,
that's true.
Ashley, you can understand. I homeschool mine as well, and my daughter was in mainstream school, and in junior high, we came up against physical bullying and constant. And it was 2 weeks into school, and my child was afraid to get into the car to go to school every day, that this group of girls was going to stalk her in the hallways and beat her up. That's not okay. And when I addressed it with the school, they said, well, we can put her in a self-isolated room. No, you're not isolating my child, who isn't the problem. So I just said, wow, this school is not for her. They are not going to watch out. They don't care at all. And I just brought her home, and I did more emotional learning this year than education. I did do academics, but I did so much more emotional learning. And we talked about how to have better conversations, how to advocate for yourself, how to listen to your instincts and that gut feeling, and really honor it, and really just know yourself. And I can see a huge difference in her. I'm so glad I did it. I would I would never take that back.
Yeah. Ash?
I think Ashley,
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things too, of when you are home educating your kids and you get to decide, okay, what are we going to teach you at the level that you can understand it? Because obviously the public school system is all cookie cutter design. So even when they are on IEPs or special education, whatever that looks like for them, they're put into this box of, okay, well, yeah, you've got this, but are they truly following what's outlined in that IEP? Are they truly giving the kids that extra time or whatever it is that they need? Or if the child does go into crisis, okay, hands off, we don't know how to handle this, come get your kid, they're suspended, the public school system, depending on the school, can be great in some situations, but not all the time. And I mean, I have a lot of friends who run autism centers, and the staff that comes in today is different from the staff and the understanding that maybe we had in school or that used to be. And yeah, some might be getting better, but there's so many people that are not advocating for the kids, and they're fighting against the parents. And then you have advocates that do want to come in and assist the family, fighting with the school system and doing what needs to be done. And it's a joke show, because it's just turned into nonsense is what it's turned into. So when our kids are here, obviously at home, we do a lot of learning by experience versus a lot of academic book work. So the other day, or last night, actually, I was playing a game with our 7-year-old at a family dinner, and he wanted to play this ring toss game. Okay, well, it required math. And I'm like, okay, what's this plus this? Because he needed to know what his total score was to see if he was beating me or not. And he did at the ripe age of 7. But anyway,
Typical.
like, you know what I mean? So it's again, it's doing things as you're living life. And that's the beautiful thing. Like when you have autistic children and you can do things by just living your life, whether they're communicating or not, they're still visually learning something from you. They can see what it is that you're doing. So it's a totally different lifestyle. It really, really is, versus having to fight with the school. And yes, not every autistic child thrives at home doing home education, but there are a lot that do. And it's out of protection for the kids because, yeah, kids are mean. Kids are mean. Let's just be honest. Like, and I think they're worse than what they were when I was in school, or really when a lot of us were in school, because it's not happening at home like it should be a lot of times. Of this is how we treat people, and you're kind to those that are different than you, and they're still human beings. Like, those are the ones that you're to go make friends with, and hey, how are you? Like, what's your name? And you become friends with those that other kids are bullying. And we very much teach our children that, like, they're different than you to some degree, but they're still a human. Like, go make friends with them if you see that they're alone, and having them understand that maybe when they're bullied in certain situations and then they try to bully their siblings, remember the moment of how you felt when somebody was bullying you. So why are we doing this to our siblings? Because it's not a fun feeling. It doesn't feel nice when your brother steals the ball from you or, teases you and does whatever. Like, remember those moments when somebody else is doing it to you, how it feels before you do it to somebody else, type of a situation.
Well, then I have a question to ask. As then how do you prepare them to go out into the real world as far as getting a job in the future and getting into social situations?
Like when they're homeschooled?
Yeah.
So, like, for us, our kids are very involved in church.
Okay.
The older two, they serve in the kids ministry with my husband and I. So they're usually with another like adult where they are running small groups, or sometimes they're running small group together. The two boys are, and usually they're with like kindergarten or first grade kids. So it's situations like that, but it's also like for us, because we own a business, my husband will take the older boys on projects with him. So they'll build a deck, or they'll do trim work, or, like they're learning those hands-on trade skills. And they're also having communication with the customers. Like my 14-year-old, he is a storyteller. He will talk your ear off, but he makes connections with a lot of our customers when he is on the job site. Sometimes it's like, I'm not paying you to have a conversation, like get to work kind of a deal. But, and we have some customers that will ask like, hey, is that one coming with? Or, hey, is this one coming with? And they'll, sometimes they'll do puzzles with the customers if there's nothing that requires them to do at that moment, or if they don't need to be helping my husband. So they're building relationship with a lot of people outside of the home, a lot of adult interaction with, our customers and whatever. But then again, serving in church, and they go to kids camp and, all of those situations. So they have a lot of trade skills for their age, if you will, compared to some kids. So that's how we throw them into the deep end. You're going to work with dad today, kind of a situation.
Wow. And that's when you get your break.
No, because I still have other kids that are here. The younger ones are here. So
breaks don't exist.
no, there's no breaks. But
I don't know what a break is.
I'm a
either.
24-hour, 24/7 mom. That's not going to ever change.
Yeah.
I'll have my
Yeah.
forever child.
Yeah. So, I mean, and there are situations like that. And then, like, even the older boys will, if they're with my in-laws, my father-in-law is a electrician. So he will take them on a job site with him as well, like if it's a residential thing, and they'll pull wire for him. The same things that my husband did when he was a kid. So he will put them into situations like that as well. So it's a beautiful thing. And my sister-in-law is a chiropractor and owns her own office. So then when we visit them, she will take my oldest 14-year-old to work with her. He'll alphabetize patient files and he'll do whatever she needs done at her office. So he's getting interaction with patients and, all of that there as well in a different state, in a different community, so it's having that flexibility and that freedom to do that when you homeschool.
Yeah. Well, people are unaware of it, aren't we? But we're actually home educating our kids from not even 1 year old because we teach them to talk, teach them to walk, teach them to crawl, teach them to stack blocks, teach them to count, all that. So we're doing it from the get-go.
Well, I guess it goes back to Richard said, we, as well as a school learning environment, we from the moment they're born, we're giving them social skills. We're giving them skills in how they should behave and how they should, and how they develop. But also we have social skills and life skills. That that's part of that's what as a family, as parents, we should be giving them, and that's from. Before they go to school, after school, while at school, we're, as long as we're around, our role as parents is to try and reinforce those social skills and teach them the right behaviour. Well, school may teach you education and also behaviour to an extent, obviously, but I guess our role of social skills and life skills starts when they're born upwards. Never stops.
And we have a program here that I took, my mic's on, that I took advantage of, and that is the Big Brother, Big Sister program, which is in the US. I'm not sure, where else it may be, but we got a big sister for our daughter, and she took her to, she was Vietnamese. And so she took her to different restaurants. She showed her a different culture. She took her to events. They just did once a week activities. She gained so much independence. She learned how to order her own food. That was something when she was with mom, she would just, mom, I was always having to be the voice of everything. But when she went out with this big sister, like, she really gained her own voice, and she learned how to order her own things and just pay for herself and do some of the things that were great skills for her to learn. We stopped the program right before we were going to start doing public transit, so that's kind of a bummer. But she committed to a year, and she fulfilled it. And for her, that was a really big thing. She's 13. That was a year-long commitment to a stranger to go and learn new things. And it was really great. It was a great success. I'm looking for something like that with my son, but he has much higher support needs. So I'm really hoping that I can find something. There's this awkward, and a lot of you might understand, because there's this awkward time frame between like 12 and 18 when there's no classes or courses or group things available. Everything 18 plus, everything 12 and under. It's this tricky part where I have this 13 and 15-year-old who I can't find group activities for with other kids their age. So that's been really hard. I hope to find something that I could get my son into that with that same experience someday.
So go on, Nick.
So I have to go. It's 10. I've got to go. I'm really sorry. I've got something on. I've got some people coming. But Sarah, it's lovely to meet you. And hopefully see you again. And yeah, really, really good show. I really enjoyed contributing to this. It's a really, I think there's so much to say on it. Really good topic and very relevant. We should talk again about it. So great to see you all, guys. So I'm going to go, but let's catch up soon.
Well, we know Nick is back next week anyway. So,
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Bye.
Yes.